Hi, I'm Chaz Kangas for Speak Minneapolis, and I have a very special guest today to talk about the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game. I am joined by the CEO and studio head of Gun Interactive, the great Wes Keltner. Wes, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I don't know about great, but I appreciate the intro. I hope you're doing well today, my friend.
Thanks. I am. Yeah, and congratulations on this game. Between it being because it came out like last year and all the best of 2023 lists it appeared on the continued new DLC and
Hmm.
people really keep gravitating and coming back and continuing towards it. So it's done a great job just maintaining this space in both the horror world and the video game world, really hitting everything. So you're known prior to this for your work on Friday the 13th, the game. So, what was the path to go from Friday the 13th to Chainsaw?
Yeah, Friday was obviously a big success for us as a studio. We had a lot of players on that, close to 14.5 million people on Friday the 13th. And so we were really just we were kind of head down on that project and thinking about what we could be doing next when we received an email from the people who own the rights to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and they had played Friday the 13th and loved it and really wanted that same sort of white glove approach to their IP that we did with Friday the 13th. They were kind of like, you guys are the guys. And so we met with them and talked about it. And then we sat together as a team here at Gun and went through our own ideas of the design of what we could do. Um, that's always a really good first test is like within just a few hours, can you already start to see the game in your head? If you can, that's a great sign. If you can't, it doesn't mean it's a no, but it's much easier to get to yes whenever you can already formulate what that game should be very early on. And so once we kind of had that very, very high level design, we went back to them and discussed what we would want to do with the game. And they said, "Yeah, we trust you guys. That sounds great. Let's do it." Got the contracts together, and then yeah, started development. It took right at 4 years from initially meeting them to the game launching on the market. We do an exhaustive amount of research on every game that we make, to the point of some would call maybe obsessive. We spent months in Texas around the areas where that film took place, where they shot it but they shot it in 73 and it came out in theaters in 74. And some of those places are still there and you can still visit them. And we took, I think it was somewhere just north of 10,000 total photos, so that we could get all the textures correct. Like when you play the game, if you see the sun setting in the game, that skybox was built from photos of the actual sky of Texas at that exact time of the day. Um, it's the gravel driveway that you run down when you're running from the family house in our game. We went to that location and we took pictures of what the gravel looks like in that driveway. So every facet of what you see in the game, if you can touch it, see it, and interact with it, it's based on its real life counterpart. So exhaustive is an understatement for the amount of legwork that we do to assure that authenticity can never be questioned. Because we think that's what a lot of these old nostalgic horror franchises what they deserve and what the fans also really appreciate, because everyone that works here, we're all big horror nerds anyway. And so if it passes our test, we're pretty sure that the people that would want to play our game, it would pass their test too, because we're pretty discerning when it comes to, does that look exactly like the chainsaw? Does it sound exactly like the chainsaw? Well, the only way to do that is to get the saw and get it 3D scanned. So we found three non-functioning chainsaws from the exact same era, exact same make and model, and then had to hire someone that could fix them. So he had to order parts and get this, three chainsaws running. And then we spent 3 days out in a field and inside a barn and some other interior structures, with a world-renowned Foley artist. Watson Wu was his name, and yeah, captured the sound of that saw for 3 days. So it's those things is I guess what makes gun very different in our approach of what we do, because you could very well just make a chainsaw that looks kind of green. You could find some stock sound assets on a website that sound like a chainsaw. And I'm assuming that the majority of people that would play the game, they would think that's fine. But it's just not the bar that we set here.
And I think too with that movie, and you look at a lot of the contemporary reviews of it when it first came out in '74, you have
Hmm.
a lot of people discussing how, it almost feels snuff film esque. It feels like this deep and dirty, like,
Hmm.
what am I watching element to it. And my very first time playing the game, I got kind of that same vibes. It's like, should I be playing this? What am I
Yeah.
playing? Because you really feel so immersed deep into it.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I
how
appreciate
was?
you saying that, because that means it clicked for you, right?
Oh yeah, it definitely did. So in terms of just that, and I mean this in a loving way, that kind of a dirty voyeur element to it,
Hmm.
the tension. What was paramount to really being able to tap into that in the first movie?
Well, Toby Hooper, the original director of the film, um, before he made um, like motion pictures, like full length theatrical releases, he was doing documentary films, and he shot a lot of see back then like industry. So you can pick whatever industry it would be, would hire people straight out of college and sometimes still in college, filmmakers, to come shoot like corporate videos that were only seen like within the company business or something like that, right? So sometimes it was sort of marketing materials, other times it was just internal videos that they would share, and that's what he got his start doing, was shooting a lot of that type of stuff. And so because that's where he sort of cut his teeth when they shot the first Texas film, it feels like a documentary, like purposefully, because of the story he wanted to tell, how he wanted to tell it, but also that lineage of like how he started making film. And so the scenes hold a little longer than you might feel. Like the literal scene is just, it holds a little longer on shots, some wide shots, some things that are actually kind of brave to do as a director, especially your first sort of big theatrical release, is to show that kind of uh, courage and confidence in your shot and what you're trying to show. Um, and it made for what seemed the macabre and the potential. Because again, the movie's not gory. People usually think that movie's gory, and it's not. But the perceived gore that happens on screen, like the using those tools the way that he used them in that film and shot in that way, made this feel like it's a true story. Even within their marketing and how the film even begins, is it's got a very dry and matter of fact tone to it, to make the viewer feel like what they're watching is more like a documentary or like news footage or something. And it also made this family of cannibals and what they do seem routine, right? Like the thing that they're doing is, it's just a Wednesday for them, right? For you, it's the worst day of your life. For them, it's just normal. And it is shot that way, in like an unflinching way, right? So that it makes that the macabre seem mundane, right? And that's what us as the viewer makes it even more uncomfortable to watch it, because a lot of horror around that time in the 70s, um, it was a little more um, sort of floaty in its camera movements, and starting to show some more of like POV of a killer, and but there was still this mysticism and this separation between like us as a linear audience and then the what's happening on the screen. There was still the illusion, it was a magic trick. It was still right, like you could still feel disconnected from what you're watching, but not when you watch that first film. The first Texas Chainsaw feels, again, that's the best way I can describe it, is the documentarian approach to the film made you uncomfortable when the subject matter was shown to you in a way that seemed very normal.
Yeah, and with a film too, with it being now 50 years old, and really it has such a life to it, with the different sequels and different remakes that have happened. But the
Mhm.
original is still one of those that everyone goes and they check for. And one thing that I've noticed in terms of playing the game is there's a certain camaraderie aspect, and just when you wait, when the clock ticks down and you can like talk and chat with the people as you're in like the
Mhm.
lobbies ready to play. I've just been casually throwing out, hey, everyone, what was your first and Texas Chainsaw game or Texas Chainsaw movie, and which one is your favorite? And so many
Mhm.
people have different answers of different eras, because we're now looking at 50 years of people who've seen it in
Yeah.
different times. For some it was like like the 80s sequel, and it had like the tongue-in-cheek element to it. For some it was
Yep. Yep. Yep.
2003 remake. Some, like the younger ones, saw the Netflix one and then went back and to
Mhm.
see the original. And I think that also speaks to that camaraderie that comes in the form of the game itself, and sort of with Texas Chainsaw having that cult audience. You wear the Saw's family shirt or anything with a Leatherface iconography on it, someone recognizes it. You have that immediate bond with them. So how is it bringing some of that deliberate like camaraderie into the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's always rewarding when we hear from our fans that, because we heard it with Friday the 13th as well. So I knew that it would probably echo into this, and maybe even more so because it's an older film comparatively to the franchise of Friday the 13th. But for some, it's the first ever experience with Texas Chainsaw. They've seen none of the films, and that makes an interesting sort of touch point in their brain for like what where someone like myself, I have nostalgia for Texas Chainsaw because I remember, being young and seeing it, and then again the numerous times of watching it and finding a new appreciation for it, and the other films in the franchise. I have nostalgia for it. So when I play the game, I'm those little things, those little nostalgic synapses are firing and reminding me of like my youth and seeing the movie and those kind of things. If you don't have that and you're just playing the game, you're actually formulating like a more short-term nostalgia that when you then go watch the movie, you go, I died there. Like when you're seeing this moment like happen in the movie, because we painstakingly tried to make it feel as one-to-one as we could. Um, so and there's something fun about, this is going to sound probably odd to say, but it's fun to die together, like with your with your friends in the game, in a setting where the clear antagonists and protagonists are, and the roles that you play are very clearly laid out. You know what you should do. When you're running with your friends through that basement that feels like a maze, and everyone's yelling at each other of like, how do you get out of here? With the sound of this saw, this like cacophony that's building in the basement. Yeah, there's parts there's a good portion of that is fear, but there's another big portion of it that turns to laughter. And those things are, I think, kissing cousins, like being scared and laughing, which I think is why we see like good directors like Jordan Peele break on the scene, right? Who's known for comedy, but then can shoot like an incredible horror film. Those things are the Venn diagram is, basically overlapped with like the understanding of in comedy being a punchline. In horror, it could be the jump scare or the tension and the release, right? The tension and release is the same thing, be it if you're about to laugh or if you're going to scream. So it's that feeling you get when you're with your friends and you're running through the game and you hear your friend yelling through the microphone that Leatherface is about to chop them up, um, or they do. You see the name appear that they've been killed, and you're sort of laughing to yourself that your buddy didn't make it while you're like running through the exit. Those create great memories, and I think it bonds friendship through the macabre and through the laughter, and um, which is why we really, really love to make this type of horror game, because there's a absolutely a marketplace for single player horror, and there's a lot of single player games I love that are horror related that I love to play, and those feel very personal and very much like when you really want to feel scared. Yeah, I would sit by myself and play a single player like Silent Hill or Resident Evil or whatever. This is feels like, again, like watching the horror movie with all your friends. You invite all of them over, and when the credits roll on your favorite horror movie and everyone looks at each other, you're hanging out together, and one of them says, well, what would you have done? Like, this game lets you answer that question. is like, put your money where your mouth is. Let's play the game and see. And you see how people react to panic. And sometimes someone has a good head on their shoulders and they make good decisions. Most people don't. And it's funny to watch that too. So it's again, it's why we make the games we make, because we think it creates very interesting situations that can bond people together that are already friends and actually help you make new ones. Because you all know you like horror, and it's like it's again, it's fun to die together.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, this style horror game, and this is to the best of my research, the fourth North American video game that Leatherface has appeared in. There was the '83 Atari game, then
Mm.
2015 he appeared in Mortal Kombat 10, and then after that he was in
Hmm.
Death by Daylight. Just out of curiosity, have you
I think
played?
he's in Call of Duty too.
Oh yeah. Oh
I think you can get
nice.
hit. I think you can unlock his skin in Call of Duty.
Oh, and what a skin to unlock. So
Right? Yeah.
yeah. So have you played the other entities of Leatherface on
I mean, I
console?
played the original on Atari. Wouldn't necessarily say it's a great game. And you really have to have a great imagination to be scared of the thing that you're seeing on the screen. I never got a chance to play him in Mortal Kombat. I've seen him obviously in Dead by Daylight, but I didn't get a chance to play him in that either. And I'm not a big Call of Duty player either. But I've seen all these things, be it through Twitch or YouTube links. Um, I've seen them played.
Yeah, just something about just the aesthetic of him that just lends itself to being able to see that in motion. I think it's why you still see, specifically even like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, everything
Mhm.
the toys to the bobbleheads to just
Oh,
even
for sure.
the
It's an
look.
iconic look. Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
so
fact that um, he he's got a wardrobe, he's got a closet to choose from. It's not like a singular one look. I mean, he has the butcher, which is with the apron and the hammer, and that's definitely its own iconic look, right? And then you have Pretty Woman, where he's something completely different, and even in the old lady, there's a scene where he's like, I think he's like acting like he's mixing some soup up or something, and he's sort of dressed like a grandma. Like these different looks become their own thing, with Pretty Woman being probably my personal favorite one, with the suit and everything and the hair and makeup and stuff. I think that's one of my favorites, and one of the most iconic shots of running down the driveway wearing that. Like it's and it was a thing that we wanted to make sure that we got right in the game, to assure that when you do pick that one, it looks exactly like it did in the movie.
you've done a great job, even outside of the game itself, allowing for the promotion of it to be more inclusive in that immersive experience.
We got a lot of publicity around some billboards we did in Austin. So around where the film was, we put up billboards for the game, and it was on all the major arteries that were leading in and out of Austin. So not like right in the center of, but all around so people that were coming to Austin would see it. And the billboards had our logo on the right for the game, and it just had these big bold letters that said "Eat Local," and that's all it said. And people just lost their mind over that, because obviously the movie's about cannibals. It's a cannibalistic family. There's a little tongue in cheek, fun, wink, wink kind of thing there, but that got press and people talking about it, and a lot of our fans were running around snapping photos of it and putting it on Instagram and on Twitter and stuff. And so it's fun when you try a thing out that everyone here is sort of thinks cool and is interesting, and other people also appreciate and they get it.
Yeah. Well, Wes, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is available now. And any last survival strategy tips or BBQ tips for our viewers?
Oh man, if you're playing as a victim, find another person and try to stick with them. And you don't have to be fast; just be faster than them. You'll be all right.